Police begin a manhunt for suspects in this morning's cash and transit heist in Polokwane. This as 5 are expected in court over the dramatic Boksburg heist 2 weeks ago. A Free State court to rule whether the controversial Gupta family's seized assets should be released. The pair convicted in the so-called coffin case are set to appeal their convictions and sentences at the Supreme Court of Appeal.
And later in sport, tensions are rising in Bloemfontein as Celtic supporters vent their anger at the proposed sale of the club. They're up in arms and have vowed their team will not be sold outside the perimeters of the Free State province.
Hello and welcome to SABC Newsroom. A very happy Monday to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm Chantal Yankee. So coming up this hour, a live update amid this morning's cash and transit heist in Polokwane. Our reporter is on the ground giving us a live update with that. Not alone, Evan Quickly standing by with all your sporting highlights from this past weekend. Very good morning to you, Valen. Very happy Monday. You well?
Very well, thank you, Shante. Happy Monday to you too, and happy Monday to our viewers. I look forward to bringing you up to speed not only with what's happening in Bloemfontein when it comes to the Celtic supporters, but everything that's happened yesterday. It certainly was a very busy sporting weekend. That's coming your way on Newsroom at 1:45 to the top of the hour. First, it's back to Shante for your top news stories.
Your lead story at the top of the hour, Limpopo police are searching for a group of armed cash and transit robbers. Well, they have made off with an undisclosed amount of money. According to police, nobody was shot. However, the driver and security guards who are on the vehicle have been rushed to hospital to be treated for shock. Limpopo Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Neke Ledwaba says they are investigating the incident.
This matter has been reported unto us that there was a cash in transit. So here we are on the scene to just come and do investigation in terms of whatever that had happened. But the information further says to us that this car traveled from point A to B on the way there to, that is now I'm referring to the crime scene itself. It had happened that it was shot, the tires were shot off, then from it happened to be stopped. And then now the drivers were pointed with firearms, then they went out, and then it was, it was exploded. They took the money and then away they went.
But do we know at this stage as to how much was taken from the fence and the guards, are they safe? Are there any injuries that were reported to you?
Well, as at now, we don't know about the injuries. It's just that, they are shocked, those drivers, so we took them to the hospital in any case. But as to how much was taken, it's not yet known since we are still on the scene.
And this road is notoriously known for cash in transit heist because a week or so ago, there was another heist here. For sure, that must be a worrying factor for you.
Indeed, it is. The crux of the matter here is that the language that we are talking at all times, we are saying the working relationship between the police and the community. Dealing, it will ensure that the province together with the country is really very much safe. So hence we are saying we are having meetings with them. Then this matter is just going to be very raised down there to say, why didn't we know about that? The crux of the matter is that for us to be really very much successful, we are banking on information from the communities themselves.
And lastly, before I let you go, Commissioner, was there anyone who was arrested? Is there any lead?
As at now, hence we are still under investigation, no arrest has been made. But we are following the information up.
Well, suspects made off with an undisclosed amount of money in that early morning heist. SABC's Michael Maringa rushed to the scene and is on standby with the latest. Very good morning to you, Michael. Give us an update with regards to the details on just the latest cash heist taking place just this morning at Matlatla Road near Polokwane.
Good morning to you, Shante, and our viewers again at home. We are still on the road where there was a cash in transit heist, the Matlala Road this morning, where you rightfully put it that the robbers fled away with undisclosed amount of money. We have seen earlier on there was a guy from a bomb disposal unit who went in to check because we were told that there were still explosives there. Even the forensic detectives couldn't go there at the stage, but later on, when the guy was there, he called the detectives to come in. They spent around 15 or so minutes combing around the area. They came back. He took off his uniform and he left. But also there is a rumor that there was an arrest. We don't know if that was correct. Hence, I'm bringing now the provincial police spokesperson, Moateng Wepe, to give us more on the latest. Colonel, we are hearing rumors not confirmed. Have you arrested anyone at this stage?
You know, I've confirmed earlier that we are hard at work. We've got two processes which are unfolding now. This is the crime scene investigations, and a dedicated team also is following all the lists with regard to the suspects involved. But I'm going to request that you give us a space so that we finalize everything as soon as we are ready and everything is up to the point. Then we will make that update.
And just a few minutes ago, Colonel, we saw the guy from the bomb explosive unit coming out together with the detectives. Surely they gave you information. There must be something that they have briefed you on after their inspection on the vehicle.
The only thing we can confirm at this stage is that the vehicle is partly exploded or blown up, because you remember that they used the unknown explosives. But at this stage, our investigations are still continuing. They will tell us.
And also, we met an ambulance when we came here. It was driving towards the Polokwane direction. We were under the impression that the security guards who were involved were there, but I have just noticed that there's a security guard who is bleeding from his right side of the chin. Have you made contact with him? Is that the guy who was in the van when it was attacked?
Yeah, indeed, there was some minor injuries with regard to the security guards. But as soon as they are done from the hospital, we'll get more information from them. Indeed, during the process, some of them sustained minor injuries.
And Colonel, before I let you go, let's talk about the modus operandi, because one thing that we have picked up as well is that not like what we have experienced in the past. We are told that, or we heard that this time around, the explosive that was used was placed just underneath the vehicle, just next to the tire. Is that a new way of doing it? Do you know anything about it?
You know, we can only confirm the modus operandi after finalization of each particular case. And we remember that as a province, we are continuing to make en route to deal with this type of incidents. Last week, we have arrested a syndicate in Palabora in possession of different types of explosives. That is where now we think that might be a bigger syndicate. And as this thing happened now today here, we will make sure that we follow all the leads up until we get all those people involved apprehended.
That was police spokesperson Ntatemo Atsengwepe explaining to us that he's not sure of the modus operandi that is used. And also, when I tried to query on the latest development that we are picking from the scene, that there are people who have been arrested somewhere, he said it's part of their investigations, and unfortunately it's something that he's not going to disclose at this stage. But provided that information is correct, it's something that we'll be reporting on. It will be the development or the breaking matter in this instance. But for now, the road remains closed. The people who are traveling between Lipalale to Polokwane, Matlala to Polokwane, have to find alternative routes, because this one will remain closed for hours when detectives go into the scene and try to find whatever they can find to assist with the investigations on this matter. But for now, it's back to you in the studio, Chantel.
Michael, just before we wrap it up, just an update with regards to some of the security personnel that were injured. Of course, the Colonel confirming that one person sustained minor injuries. Can you give us an update with regards to the other personnel that were taken to hospital, allegedly treated for shock, I believe?
Yes, we couldn't get much on that because we only met the ambulance on the way. You'll understand that the guards don't have an authority to talk to us. We just managed to pick one because he was bleeding, and we could at least connect him to the scene to say that he was there. He was explaining to the Hawks spokesperson, who's also here, about what transpired, how the attack went about, and how they survived. But unfortunately, we are not wanted anywhere near that because it's still information that they cannot give out to the public. But so far, we can confirm that one of them is here and others have been taken to hospital, and they are receiving the necessary attention that they need at this stage.
Definitely. That was SABC's Mike Maringa reporting from that cash and transit scene that has just happened at the Matala Road near Polokwane. Also getting an update from the Colonel on the ground, as well as the forensics team that seems to be underway, confirming that there was sort of an explosive with regards to the truck that has been damaged. We will be giving you more updates on that story. Some other news, 5 men arrested in connection with the daring daylight cash and transit heist in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg 2 weeks ago, are also now expected in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. Well, the suspects face charges of armed robbery with aggravating circumstances, attempted murder and possession of prohibited firearms and ammunition. It's alleged these suspects ambushed 2 G4S cash vans and blew them open with commercial explosives before fleeing with an undisclosed amount of cash. The suspects were all arrested at the George Gach hostel in Johannesburg following a high-speed chase and shootout with police. Well, several firearms, including AK-47 rifles, ammunition and some stolen money were seized. The remaining suspects are still at large. Well, several roads in Ekurhuleni on Gauteng's East Rand have been blocked off due to traffic, due to protest action. Areas affected include Vosloorus, Germiston as well as Dzakane. The reasons for the protests are still unknown at this stage. Also in Cape Town, 3 people have died in a taxi that they were travelling in when it crashed on the N2. Well, Western Cape Traffic Chief Kenny Africa says the driver of the taxi lost control of his vehicle. He says at least 15 people have been seriously injured. Now joining us for a traffic update, is Rob Byrne. A very good morning to you, Rob. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here.
Essentially, just give us an update on what routes are affected on our country's roads this Monday morning.
Yeah, what we're going to do is just talk a little bit about the cash heist this morning that we saw on the Matlala Road just outside Polokwane. There is still a traffic disruption at that particular scene. The incident happened, we understand, around about 5:30, 5:40 this morning. You're right, the SPV van was blown up. There was live shots being fired at that particular scene, so it would have been a harrowing process to work through if you were a motorist. And of course, that Matlala Road, a very busy route in and out of Polokwane at that time of morning. Now, SPV, the vehicle that was attacked this morning, have issued a press release, and they're also issuing an appeal for any one that might have any knowledge about this. SPV have put out a line that you can contact them on, 083 408 7029. So it's 083 408 7029. That's the number to call SPV if you know anything about that incident this morning just outside Polokwane. They are looking for a Toyota Hilux, a white Toyota Hilux that was involved in that. And you might think, okay, what's the impact for traffic and what's the impact for police resourcing on these cash and transit heists as they happen? And you were just mentioning the Boksburg scene. The video that we're playing now is not of that scene, but it's of the arrest that happened on the M2 highway. So the cash and transit heist, those 2 vans that were blown up in Boksburg, and then the perpetrators made their way back in towards Joburg and were finally caught up with the police on the M2 highway. And you can look at this video that's playing and you can just see the amazing traffic disruption. That's the M2 between Cleveland and Joburg, which was just effectively blocked off for hours and hours as the police arrived at the scene. I think it was only 5:30 in the afternoon that it reopened. But you can also just see the significant number of police resources that are involved in sorting out these cash heists. Not only is the chopper up in the air, but there must be 20 or 30 police vehicles and vans all at that scene on the M2. So yeah, massive traffic disruption around some of these heists. And of course, they do take away a lot of the police resourcing from other areas of policing. But just have a look at that and that impact. So that's a little run through cash heists and the impact that they can have on our roads. With that update for SABC Traffic, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thank you very much, Rob Byrne, just giving us an update as to how those cash and transit heists are actually affecting motorists this morning, specifically with that new one just coming in this morning outside of Polokwane, as well as a very important point there, also the police resources and the police contingent that these cash transit heists are consuming on our roads. Let's have a look at some other news stories this morning. The Free State High Court in Bloemfontein is expected to make a ruling over the freezing of 180 million rand in assets of 8 people accused of fraud and other charges relating to the multi-million rand Estina Dairy Farm project today. Well, Gupta Link companies recently challenged a provincial restraint order which the asset forfeiture unit obtained against the 8 in April, while a criminal case against them is pending. The 8 were arrested during raids at various locations in February, including the Gupta compound in Saxonwold and their offices in Sandton. The Supreme Court of Appeal will today hear arguments by the convicted coffin assault duo Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Jackson on their sentences and convictions. Well, the pair were granted leave to appeal in February after the High Court sitting in the Middelburg Magistrates Court dismissed their application for leave to appeal in October of 2017. Jackson and Oosthuizen, the men who forced Victor Mhlotshwa into a coffin, were sentenced to 11 years and 14 years respectively behind bars. They want both their convictions and sentences overturned. Now for more on the coffin case and the Stena Dairy from projects and some of the issues around then that court case, we now cross live to our reporter Apumbalele Mtlalane, who is in Bloemfontein covering this morning. A very good morning to you. Just give us an update and take us through briefly those two high-profile court cases that are taking place in Bloemfontein this morning.
A very good morning to you, Shante, and also to the viewers at home. Of course, here in Bloemfontein today, it's going to be a very busy day. As you just mentioned, that two high-profile court cases will be taking place. The first one is here at the Supreme Court. As right now, I'm standing at the Supreme Court of Appeal. This is about the two Gio that were sentenced for attempted murder, for the assault, for intimidation. We know that the case dates back to 2016, whereby we know the Oosthuizen, two guys, which is Oosthuizen and also Jackson, were sentenced for 11 years and also 14 years. It's all about they threatened to kill rather we know Mhlotshwa, who was put inside a coffin, and we know that it was a national conversation. And now the GIO has of course not them in physics, but we know that their legal representative will be coming here at the Supreme Court of Appeal just now at 9:45 to overturn, of course, the court order in the Middelburg of their conviction and also their sentencing. But another interesting case, Shante, is about the asset forfeiture unit. We know that the Gupta, they also approached the High Court here in Bloemfontein. The case will be sitting at 2:15 at the High Court here in Bloemfontein. But today is just judgment. It's not going to be happening for the whole day. We know that the Gupta approached the High Court after the asset forfeiture unit freezed their assets that are more than 180 million. We're talking about 43 we're talking about 43 houses, and also we're talking about aircrafts and also other luxury cars. But now they have argued at the High Court in Bloemfontein that the NPA has no standing leg to have frozen these assets that are belonging to the Gupta family. And also they were saying that there hasn't been any evidence that were brought forward by the NPA to say that these assets were in a way linked to the Stena Dairy Farm project. We know that it also has been a national conversation that Gupta assets were frozen due to the process of investigating this dairy farm project. But all I can say is just now, the court here for the Gio case, the coffin assault case, will be starting at 9:45, and then later on we will be going to the High Court so that we can hear about the judgment. But as far as I'm concerned, Shante, the NPA was very confident to say to us about the Gupta case that they are confident that the court will rule in their favor. Of course, that they are confident that they have a strong case to say that these assets that they froze, they have something to do with the dairy Stena Farm investigation.
All right, thank you, Apumbalele Mtlalane, taking us through some of the reasonings there with both those high-profile cases taking place this morning. Also commenting that the NPA is quite confident that the court will be ruling in their favour. We'll just have to wait and see and get updates coming in from the court in Bloemfontein. Well, a 19-year-old man is expected to appear before the Vryburg Magistrates Court this morning in connection with the deaths of two schoolgirls. Parents, school management and learners at Hoërskool Stella in the northwest are reeling in shock after two learners were hanged in the hostel this weekend. According to police, the hostel matron found one girl hanging from the rails of a staircase in the hostel, while the other girl was found in one of the hostel bathrooms with a rope around her neck. Well, policy certainty and regulatory frameworks are top of mind for President Cyril Ramaphosa as he concludes his 100 days in office. In an exclusive interview, the president told the SABC he's optimistic in South Africa's investment potential in 2018.
He was elected ANC president at the end of last year, but remained second in charge of the country. Then, the push to ensure he also became president of the republic. He has now completed 100 days in office, dealing with a challenging environment after former President Jacob Zuma left office.
The level of confidence amongst our people has gone up. The level of trust in government has also started to increase. And people are feeling that they are definitely living in a South Africa that is moving forward. They are positive about the way the country is being led in terms of going forward. And they're also positive about us dealing with the problems that we have had in the past. Problems such as corruption and problems such as bad governance. And we are putting in place the building stones of even a better South Africa moving forward.
As the country grapples with poverty and unemployment, economic growth is a priority for the new man at the helm. And his experience as a businessman has come in handy.
I deliberately felt that we needed to set a target so that we're not working in the dark. I want us to work towards something. When people focus on a target, they work even harder. And that is why I appointed 4 investment envoys to go around the world, in our own country and around the world, and try and campaign for investors to come to our country, and even those who are in the country to unlock their bank vaults and release the money so that we can build factories, we can invest in productive capacity and employ more and more of our people, particularly young people. Many young people are unemployed right now. That is what keeps me awake at night. I worry about this level of unemployment among young people. So this target of 1.2 trillion rand in 5 years, I believe we can achieve it. And we are going to work very hard to try and get there. Because if we can attract investment to that extent, that will begin to lift a lot of boats.
While the rating agencies have given South Africa a chance, concerns remain about political instability, and the political killings is an added challenge.
The political climate will always be a challenging one. We are a developing democracy, and there will always be challenges. Even in more developed democracy, there's always a challenge. And so you obviously have to work all the time towards making the political climate better so that you have stability, so that you have certainty, particularly at the policy level. I focus more on the policy level and the regulatory framework because that is what investors look out for. The political noise is something else. I mean, they know wherever they invest that there'll always be political noise and political competition. It is the policy certainty and the political stability that matters to investors.
On the international front, the president believes South Africa will reclaim its position on the global stage and is optimistic that South Africa will get support for its bid for the non-permanent seat at the Security Council. Voting will take place on the 6th of June 2018.
We are working very hard to win that seat on the Security Council. We've got the support of the African Union. We've got the support of a number of countries around the world, in the Caribbean and many other places. So we are working extremely hard to win the support of as many countries as we possibly can. We've been on the Security Council before, twice before. We want to go back for another season again. And what will we do? We want to make a contribution to peace in the world, the peace movement in the world that must spread so that the world at a multilateral level must deepen its resolve to solve problems through dialogue, through discussion, and there should never be a moment where countries take unilateral action on issues that affect the world and many other countries, and indeed the people of the world. And of course, the other agenda item for us is sustainable development. Sustainable development at an economic level and also at an environmental level. We want to be pushing that agenda. And of course, human rights. Human rights for us is the bedrock of our international policy. So those are the key critical things that we want to promote. And of course, the sustainable developmental goals that have been adopted by the United Nations. And of course, we want to be pushing the African agenda, Agenda 2063. We want to be the flag bearers for Agenda 2063 at the international level. So if we get the opportunity to be on the Security Council, those are the key 5 issues that we will want to be pushing when we get there.
He is expected to attend a G20 meeting in Argentina and later in September will make his first appearance at the United Nations General Assembly. 100 days in office and a lot needs to be done before the 2019 national election. Sophie Mkwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, the ANC's highest decision-making body between conferences has still not decided who should succeed Supra Mahumapelo as Northwest Premier. The NEC has been meeting in Irene outside Pretoria since Friday.
100 days into President Cyril Ramaphosa's new dawn, the ANC continues to preach unity, but on the ground, members continue to die in alleged political killings.
For people to shoot at each other in a conference of the ANC, if that is true, what you are saying, we have just heard today, this morning, that somebody has been killed or shot at in Mpumalanga. We are going to address that matter. We need to get facts as to what happened.
The KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Elective Conference is scheduled for this weekend, but some regions have not concluded their conferences.
We are sensitive to the issues of KZN, and we are further going to look and send the team to KZN, not just to go to Harry Gwala or Moses Mabhida.
In the Free State, some remain disgruntled about the recently held Provincial Elective Conference and the new leadership. This too remains unresolved.
The chair of the Free State is in the meeting, Comrade Mashinini and Comrade Paseka Nompondo.
So it's been endorsed.
The fact that they are here, they will still give us a report, a consolidated report by the National Executive Committee members.
And at national level, the ANC remains divided on key issues.
The views of Comrade Kgalema was not the views of Kgalema as an individual. It was the views of that panel which was appointed by Parliament. And it was not the views of the ANC when it comes to the issue of traditional leadership and the land. And I think we're saying as the ANC, we need to accept and understand that there are other views, and we need to bring all these views together. We need to engage, and that's why we'll be engaged in the traditional leadership.
And a successor for former Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo remains a mystery.
The Provincial Executive Committee is supposed to give us 3 names. They have done so, but we further want to engage with the Provincial Executive Committee as well as other structures.
The ANC Ordinary NEC concludes today, and the President will launch the Tuma Mina campaign in the Northwest on the 2nd of June. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Irene, Pretoria.
Well, Parliament is taking concrete steps to determine the feasibility of uprooting the legislature from Cape Town to Pretoria. For years, the ANC has been calling for the legislative and administrative capitals to reside in the same province as a cost-cutting measure. But there are concerns whether the move is practical. Abra Barbria reports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
It's a conversation which comes and goes. But the ANC seems to finally be making moves.
With respect to the proposal of relocating Parliament from Cape Town to Pretoria, an external service provider, Pamoja Pty Ltd, has been appointed to conduct a 6-month socio-economic and impact study commencing this month.
For the Cape Chamber of Commerce, this is not good news.
Business in the Western Cape will suffer astronomically. There'll be a huge vacuum. But we also don't know if our economy can afford it at the moment. It'll be a huge capital outlay and many years, even to the extent of 10 years, before we even see a benefit.
The Council for the Advancement of the Constitution says wherever Parliament is located, people would still have to travel there. Its main concern is the staffing issue.
These are highly skilled technical staff that run this Parliament, and you're going to ask over 1,000 people to relocate in order to do that. You know, that's something that needs to be taken into account. Do we have the capacity to recruit new people to run this Parliament?
Some political parties also weighed in.
It must be done seriously, and in some of us are of the view that it is something that must be taken seriously, and a decision must be taken on the matter once and for all.
On the face of it, it makes sense for the administration, for the and Parliament to be in one area. I mean, this happens around the world, and it could be cost effective.
We are of the opinion that we have to stay where we are. If they bring forward that and prove that there is some austerity on this matter, then we can continue with that. But at this moment, there are no such proof.
The ANC says it will be leaving the matter up to the 6th Parliament to follow up on. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, mountaineer Spusiso Vilane is preparing to return home after achieving an African first on Mount Everest. Vilane climbed 8,000 meters above sea level, or what's known as the death zone, without supplementary oxygen. Back home, the over 40 Trek for Mandela hikers completed another training hike. Gillian Pillay reports.
Just over a month to go, another crucial training underway. While physical and mental fitness is key, team cohesion is also vital.
We instill discipline that people must stay together, we work together, we rest together, and then if we open the gap, we stop. So I was personally leading the group to make sure that we have to do that. And I know sometimes it's frustrating because some people are fast walkers, but on Kilimanjaro, we have to all be at the same level.
Joining the centenary climb is Section 27's Nsiki Mpulo. She wants young girls to have the opportunity she had, an education, and to stay HIV/AIDS free.
Section 27 is an organization that advocates for young women to get pads in schools. And that is part of the HIV work that we've been doing for the last 2 years, because of the fact that 2,000 new HIV infections are happening in South Africa per week, and most of them are young women.
As the countdown begins, the underlying anxiety factor at play.
Every time that I do a hike, it's just kind of reminding myself, okay, one step at a time, it's, you know, it's my own pace.
And as Vilani is celebrating his feat, there's growing concerns about pollution on the world's highest peak. Piles of dirt strewn on the mountain, making it even more difficult for climbers to pitch tents. And again, a call to support the SABC News team will be documenting the trek.
Support my colleagues, Julian Pillay, Thabo Madilula.
We'll attempt a double summit.
They're going to go up and down Mount Kilimanjaro.
Go up and down, up and down Mount Kilimanjaro for Trek Mandela. Come on, let's help them help the child.
Gillian Pillay, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Can do it. Yeah.
Our stories.
How do I begin?
Our lives. When all seems to fail, we will raise our voices a bit louder for our justice.
Well, I went into absolute shock. My whole body was shaky. I couldn't hold a phone, but there he was. I couldn't believe the nonchalance that they were still in the area 2 weeks later.
And in times when the justice system is not able to help us with our individual battles,
I'm willing to do anything. What are you doing? Nothing. Feeling sorry for yourself? No, it's not an option.
These are our stories on Cutting Edge Channel 404.
The historic Iran nuclear deal to go ahead despite the United States pulling out. While authorities on high alert as a volcano destroys over 80 homes. The lead story of this half hour with some African news. Kenya's head of National Youth Service has been arrested as part of investigations into a $99 million theft of funds. Well, Richard Ndubai is among a number of unspecified officials in custody. The incident comes in the wake of a 2015 scam at a youth agency which aims to equip Kenya's young people with key skills and help create jobs. Well, Kenyan media reports the funds have been stolen through fictitious invoices and multiple payments on one supplier invoices. Well, last week, investigators summoned more than 40 people, including Dubai, for questioning over the lost funds. President Uhuru Kenyatta's pledged to stamp out graft when he was first elected in 2013. But critics say he has been slow to pursue top officials. Kenyatta has blamed the slow progress in tackling corruption on the lethargy of some government agencies charged with rooting out graft. Staying with news abroad, following the United States' decision to pull out of the historic Iran nuclear deal, 5 major states met in Vienna, promising to work together to explore ways to save it. Well, the parties indicated more confidence was built after meeting in the Austrian capital.
It was the first meeting between China, Russia, France, Britain, Germany and Iran in a bid to save the Iran nuclear deal following the US pull-out. A confidential report of the UN nuclear watchdog on Thursday showed Tehran is still complying with the historic nuclear deal after the United States withdrawal. That is the IAEA's 11th such report since the implementation day of the nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
Director General of the IAEA came to the meeting and confirmed once again that Iran fully complies with its obligations under the deal.
Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said he is more confident after negotiations with the 5 major states on Friday, and Tehran is waiting for the package of measures which could secure the interests of Iran under the historic nuclear deal after the United States withdrawal.
We got the sense that Europeans and Russia and China, as remaining participants to the JCPOA, are serious. And they recognize that JCPOA's survival depends on the interests of Iran to be respected.
Diplomats told the reporters all sides remain united for saving the deal. In a statement, the EU said its priorities over the next few weeks would include maintaining and deepening economic relations with Iran, the continued sale of Iran's oil and gas, effective banking transactions with Iran, and so on. China said it will continue to stick to the Iran nuclear deal and work with other relevant parties to push for its implementation.
Our Iranian colleagues are sincere, and we were given the impression that they, for their part, are to continue to safeguard and implement the agreement, though they indicate that it perhaps would take them about 2 to 3 weeks to finally decide whether they are to stay in the joint, in the nuclear deal.
Tehran suggested having a foreign ministers meeting soon to further push the process forward in discussing solutions to the issue. The proposal was agreed by all sides, while no time frame was announced.
Well, 82 homes have been destroyed amid Hawaii's Kilauea volcano. The lava flowed into a number of areas, including some upmarket housing developments. Authorities have asked residents to flee as fiery lava surges towards them. Well, magma spewed from 30 meters high cinder cones and formed elevated ponds of molten rock that were expected to soon overflow and stream into the next rows of homes. Firefighters went door to door evacuating residents before the lava could reach them. Some 890 hectares of land have been torched by lava since May. Hawaii authorities say the Kilauea volcano is likely to be the most destructive eruption in more than a century. Well, a baby boy named Miracle has been born on a humanitarian rescue ship, the Aquarius. The baby's arrival comes amid a recent surge of migrants risking sea crossings from Libya to Italy, all in search of a better life.
Migrants rescued by this humanitarian ship may be seeking a new life in Europe. But on board, one new life got started early. This is Miracle, a baby boy born on the rescue ship Aquarius. His arrival coming amid a recent surge of migrants risking sea crossings from Libya to Italy as the weather has improved. According to one Italian Coast Guard official, there have been more than 1,800 migrants rescued by humanitarian ships and Italy's Navy and Coast Guard in the past 3 days. Arrivals from Libya, which serves as a staging post for people smugglers, have plummeted 85% this year compared with last year, after the Italian government provided support to the Libyan Coast Guard to stop migrant boats. But the good weather and other factors seem to have reversed that trend. A spokeswoman for the ship Aquarius said it was hard to know why the Libyan Coast Guard had not been as active in recent days. Aquarius brought 70 migrants to Sicily on Sunday and was heading back out later that day. And while Miracle's birth may be a bright spot in those rescue operations, many on board carry with them stories of misery. That includes Miracle's mother, who told Médecins Sans Frontières she had been held captive, beaten, given very little food and extorted for money during her year in Libya.
So TB continues to be the top infectious killer worldwide, claiming 4,500 lives a day. It is estimated that approximately 1% of the global population is autistic. So if you're on a medical aid, how well do you understand the benefit structure and how your medical aid generally works? And if you're not on a medical aid, have you considered belonging to one? So how much and what should you know about this condition? Is it curable? Can people living with epilepsy, for instance, play sport, drive cars, get employed? 7 million people around the world die annually as a result of tobacco use.
For Health Tip, catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Thanks for staying with us. Let's bring you your sports news and news that just broke this morning. Stormers captain Siya Kolisi will lead the Springboks against England in the forthcoming incoming series. Rassie Erasmus, the South African rugby director, confirmed that Pieter-Steph du Toit will captain the Boks for Saturday's historic test in Washington against Wales. Erasmus also confirmed the Springboks' 26-man travelling squad for the Welsh encounter in Washington, but will announce his starting lineup for the Welsh match on Wednesday prior to departure to America. The squad members not involved in the Welsh match will stay behind in Johannesburg to continue their preparations for the coming international season. Erasmus congratulated both Kolisi and du Toit on their respective appointments. Both men will captain the Springboks for the very first time. And tensions are rising in Bloemfontein as Celtic supporters vent their anger at the proposed sale of the club. They're up in arms and have vowed that their team will not be sold outside of the perimeters of the Free State province. Following a gathering of supporters where it was agreed to write a petition to team owner Max Shabalala, fans disrupted traffic flows, starting fires and throwing rubbish on the road. This comes alongside unconfirmed weekend reports that the club has been sold to an unknown businessman from the Northern Cape. Joining us on the line is our reporter in the city, Tebogo Letsaba. Tebogo, a very good morning to you. Following what seemed like a rather peaceful meeting where it was agreed that a petition would be signed by all of the supporters, there was protests on the roads in Bloemfontein where tyres were lit and rubbish strewn all over the road. Tell us what happened in the late afternoon.
Well, certainly the meeting went well, but after that, as you have correctly explained, things started to get a bit ugly. That's where some supporters resorted to blockading the roads, trashing the streets, and burning the tires, saying this is a sign of bad things that are yet to happen should the club be sold to anybody outside the perimeters of Bloemfontein. You'd recall that midweek, ahead of the meeting, we've managed to speak to several supporters about that reported move, because it has already been confirmed by the club chairman, Max Shabalala, that the cost of running the club have been quite escalating over the years since he took control 4 years ago. So he decided that it will be best to give it to somebody else who will be able to offset or rather help financially to bail him out of the situation that he's currently experiencing. So reports started to emerge that the club, in fact, it has already been sold to some businessmen in Kimberley. And by 2020, the decision will be to relocate the club to Kimberley. The understanding of the supporters over the years was that even when Tate Molemela sold the club to Jimmy Agosti before it could go to Max Shabalala, the standing agreement was that whoever who buys the club preferably should be somebody from Bloemfontein, and that the club should always stay here. So that is the contention of the supporters, that it shouldn't leave the shores of Bloemfontein, as has been a long-standing agreement that was there in the years ago.
Tebogo, it does look like the supporters will not stay quiet. They will resort to violence, just considering what we've seen yesterday and the kind of unrest that we've seen in Bloemfontein. If the deal with the Northern Cape businessman is in fact true, and that the club could move to the Northern Cape in 2020. What do you think, considering what has happened in the build-up to the meeting and what has happened amongst the supporters? What do you think the reaction would be if that was the case?
Well, the deal at this stage, nothing has been confirmed that the deal has been concluded to the best of our knowledge. However, the club chairman himself has confirmed that he's been in negotiation with several bidders who want to take control of the club. So the fact of the matter is that Celtic will be sold as per his own admission. But at this stage, it is something that the supporters are not willing to accept, that it should go outside. One should also emphasize the fact that because Bloemfontein Celtic is an autonomous institution, ultimately the decision to sell or not to sell will lie with the shareholders of the club. The owners of the club will be the one who will take that ultimate decision, irrespective of what supporters are feeling, because the experience has shown in the past that clubs would more often than not exchange hands. I mean, you can mention so many clubs that have relocated from one province to the other as per the agreements that are there. The most important thing is that, of course, it has to comply with the regulations of the Premier Soccer League when such transaction is being concluded. But from where I'm standing, from where I'm sitting now, if that decision were to be taken, whether it goes to Kimberley or it goes elsewhere, that decision will be taken by the management. You know, sometimes clubs, chairman, the views coming from supporters would do little, especially when it comes to cost of running the club, because you'd recall a month or so earlier, even players and the technical staff were up in arms. They were on strike at some stage, refusing even to take to the training due to outstanding amounts that were owed to them, the signing on fees and bonuses. That also shows that there are serious financial problems in the club, compounded lately by the sponsorship, the main sponsor who has also pulled out of the club. That would also aggravate the financial position of the club.
Tebogo, this can't be very good news for the provincial government. We've seen them themselves come out and support Bloemfontein Celtic, further supporting them by upgrading the Dr. Molamela Stadium. Surely they will have a word to say, regardless of the fact that this is, as you rightly point out, an autonomous organisation, Bloemfontein Celtic.
Yeah, of course, the provincial government has played its role to a large extent. You'd remember that early last year, they even contributed 2 million rand to Bloemfontein Celtic and Free State Stars. It's something that they also did for Free State Cheetahs. So they've been trying to meet them halfway with the little contribution that they could do. But you will also remember that the government was not even obliged to do that. It is something that they did, maybe one would say, as a goodwill gesture. But of course, 2 million, given the escalating price, I mean, the salaries of the players, cost of administration, including the grant that comes to the club, are seldom enough, of course, to deal with the financial burden that these kind of clubs are experiencing at this stage.
This surely will have a massive impact on the resumption and the condition of the team when the 2018-2019 PSL season resumes, Tebogo.
Of course it will. At this stage, we are yet to see if that transaction will be concluded much earlier. As you correctly point out, at this stage, you know, a number of clubs are recruiting players. They try to extend contracts of their players, and that could also have a burden on the future of the club, that if it gets sold, the decision on the future of club, future administrators, who are you going to sign at this stage? You know, these kind of things will impact positively or negatively. The sooner that transaction is concluded, if it were to happen, the better, so that everybody can know the position of the club. At this stage, it seems as if things are a bit chaotic, given the fact that even the administrators of the club haven't really came out quite open with the supporters as to what is going to happen, except that last week there was a meeting with executive members of Bloemfontein supporters club here, but nothing was communicated after that to the media as to what was the conclusion between the chairman and executive manager, so to speak, I mean, from these branches.
Tebogo Saba from Bloemfontein, thank you so much for chatting to us on Newsroom. It is a story that SABC News will be following closely. Let's continue our sports bulletin with international football news. Egypt forward Mohamed Salah said he's confident of being fit to play at the World Cup, despite sustaining a shoulder injury in Liverpool's Champions League final defeat to Real Madrid. Salah's final ended prematurely in Kiev on Saturday after a first-half challenge from Real captain Sergio Ramos, which led to the 25-year-old leaving the pitch in tears, clutching his shoulder. On Saturday, the Egyptian FA posted on Twitter that it is optimistic Salah would recover in time to travel to Russia. Meanwhile, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp said that the injury did not look good after the game. But Salah posted yesterday on Twitter, "It was a tough night, but I'm a fighter. Despite the odds, I'm confident that I'll be in Russia to make you all proud. Your love and support will give me the strength I need." And in basketball news, LeBron James finished with 35 points, 15 rebounds and 9 assists as the Cleveland Cavaliers reached their 4th straight NBA Finals with an 87-79 Game 7 victory over the Boston Celtics. James put on another great postseason performance by carrying his team past the Celtics as he booked a spot in his 8th consecutive finals. Cleveland became the first team to win on the road in the series and the first to beat the Celtics at home in the postseason. The Cavaliers will take on either the reigning champions Golden State Warriors or the Houston Rockets in the championship series. The Warriors dominated the Rockets 115-86 on Saturday to force a decisive Game 7, which will take place late today in Houston. In cycling news, Kenyan-born cyclist Chris Froome, who races under the British flag, won his first Giro d'Italia title to become the first Brit to win the Giro in its 101-year history. Froome's historic victory was sealed after the 3rd lap through the eternal city of Rome, when racing was neutralized due to treacherous conditions through the ancient streets. Winning the Giro means that Froome now holds all the Grand Tour titles after winning the Tour de France and the Volta a Hispana in 2017. Froome is also just the 7th cyclist in history to win all 3 Grand Tours. While Sam Bennett of Ireland won the final stage in a sprint finish, the day belonged to the man in the pink Maglia Rosa jersey as he took a slow ride to the finish through the streets of Rome.
Hello, I'm Simpiwe Ngongwane, and as usual, I'm in the company of the pearl of the show.
And yes, I'm Pearl Shongwe, and this is the weekend edition of Morning Live,
where we bring you news stories, making headlines, weather updates, and the latest in the world of sports.
Every weekend on Saturday and Sunday mornings, we bring you, our viewer, vibrant, exciting, informative current stories here on the SABC News Channel 404.
And we also put a spotlight on creative art stories, book reviews, poetry, and various topical stories. We also bring you live outside broadcast as well as live music performances.
All of this
every weekend between 6 and 9 here on the SABC News Channel 404.
And shut up, you stay lazy and listen.
The Honourable President told me to shut up.
It's up to the leadership of the DA to make a decision whether we continue to fight like we are doing now, or we put the people of the city of Cape Town first.
You must go, Chief. You call me a dog here.
Come back and leave after giving us a signal.
This is SABC News.
We're shooting a campaign. We're telling genuine stories from real people that have been affected by the SABC.
It's also interesting to get the backstory in terms of their dreams to be on screen and eventually getting the pleasure to do that.
And understanding that they're communicating on a platform that speaks to millions of people. It speaks to how the SABC can fulfill its mandate.
The SABC represents the opportunity for so many young South Africans, for old South Africans, to be able to look at the world that they may not experience any other way.
People should continue to pay their TV license because it allows the SABC to bring quality programming.
The TV license is really part of the lifeblood of the channel and the corporation.
When you're listening to your favorite jams, you're listening to your favorite radio DJ, you must know that you made it possible by paying your TV license.
It's such a holistic process that goes into TV licenses. It's not only one part where we say South Africans have to pay for TV licenses. You pay a TV license because you get so much value out of it, and that's the content that you get every single day on the SABC platforms.
I have been in the film industry now for 51 years. I am quite satisfied with the evolution of television now, that you have got a lot of actors and you have got a lot of crew members, which will also play part of paying our licenses, because I think it's proper.
The police begin a manhunt for suspects in this morning's cash and transit heist in Polokwane. This as 5 are expected in court over the dramatic Boksburg heist 2 weeks ago. A Free State court to rule whether the controversial Gupta family's seized assets should be released. The pair convicted in the so-called coffin case are set to appeal their convictions and sentences at the Supreme Court of Appeal.
And in sports, Stormers captain Siya Kolisi to lead the Springboks for the England incoming tour. Hello and welcome to SABC watching Newsroom. I'm Shantay Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us. A lot coming up, live updates amid this morning's cash and transit heist in Polokwane, as well as the court cases currently taking place in Bloemfontein this morning. I'm not alone. Valen Kurtley is standing by with all your sporting highlights this morning. Very good morning to you. Weekend highlights from sports, Valen? Weekend highlights, so many of them to speak about. The Monaco Grand Prix was absolutely fantastic, watching the way that Daniel Ricciardo drove, and then also seeing his teammate Max Verstappen go from last and end in 9th position certainly was very exciting. Yeah. And there's lots of stuff that is also getting us into the week ahead, like the announcement of our Springbok captain being Siya Kolisi. He, along with Peter Steph du Toit, who will captain the Springboks in the one-off historic test match against Wales on Saturday, was announced just a couple of minutes ago. We'll be bringing you up to speed with exactly what's happening in your sports world at 1:45 the top of the hour. First though, back to Shantay for your top news stories.
Having a look at your lead story at the top of the hour, Limpopo police are searching for a group of armed cash and transit robbers. They have made off with an undisclosed amount of money. According to police, nobody was shot. However, the driver as well as security guards who were inside the vehicle have been rushed to hospital to be treated for shock. Limpopo Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Neke Ledwaba says they are investigating the incident.
This matter has been reported to us that there was a cash in transit. So here we are on the scene to just come and do investigation in terms of whatever that had happened. But the information further says to us that this car traveled from point A to B on the way there to, that is now I'm referring to the crime scene itself. It had happened that it was shot, the tires were shot off, then from it happened to be stopped. And then now the drivers were pointed with firearms, then they went out, and then it was, it was exploded. They took the money, and then away they went.
But do we know at this stage as to how much was taken from the fence, and the guards, are they safe? Are there any injuries that were reported to you?
Well, as at now, we don't know about the injuries. It's just that, they are shocked, those drivers, so we took them to the hospital in any case. But as to how much was taken, it's not yet known, since we are still on the scene.
And this road is notoriously known for cash in transit heists, because a week or so ago, there was another heist here. For sure, that must be a worrying factor for you.
Indeed, it is. The crux of the matter here is that the language that we are talking at all times, we are saying the working relationship between the police and the community. Dealing, it will ensure that the province together with the country is really very much safe. So hence we are saying we are having meetings with them. Then this matter is just going to be very raised down there to say, why didn't we know about that? The crux of the matter is that for us to be really very much successful, we are banking on information from the communities themselves.
And lastly, before I let you go, Commissioner, was there anyone who was arrested? Is there any lead?
As at now, hence we are still under investigation, no arrest has been made. But we are following the information up.
Meanwhile, 5 men arrested in connection with the daring daylight cash and transit heist in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg 2 weeks ago, are expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. Well, we do know that they are expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. Of course, this is after that initial daring incident that took place in the east of Johannesburg. We will be giving you more details on that story, as well as what is going to be some of the outcomes from that court case this morning. Some other news now. The Free State High Court in Bloemfontein is expected to make a ruling over the freezing of 180 million rand in assets of 8 people accused of fraud and other charges relating to the multi-million rand Estina dairy farm project today. Gupta-linked companies recently challenged a provisional restraint order which the asset forfeiture unit obtained against the 8 in April, while a criminal case against them is pending. Well, the 8 were arrested during raids at various locations in February, including the Gupta compound in Saxonwold and their offices in Sandton. The Supreme Court of Appeal will today hear arguments by the convicted coffin assault duo Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Jackson on their sentences and convictions. Well, the pair were granted leave to appeal in February after the High Court sitting in Middelburg Magistrates Court had dismissed their application for leave to appeal in October of 2017. Jackson and Oosthuizen, the men who forced Victor Mlotshwa into a coffin, were sentenced to 11 years and 14 years respectively behind bars. Well, they want both their convictions and sentences overturned. Well, policy certainty and regulatory frameworks are top of mind for President Cyril Ramaphosa as he concludes his 100 days in office. In an exclusive interview, the president told the SABC he is optimistic in South Africa's investment potential in 2018.
He was elected ANC president at the end of last year, but remained second in charge of the country. Then the push to ensure he also became president of the Republic. He has now completed 100 days in office, dealing with a challenging environment after former President Jacob Zuma left office.
The level of confidence amongst our people has gone up. The level of trust in government has also started to increase. And people are feeling that they are definitely living in a South Africa that is moving forward. They are positive about the way the country is being led in terms of going forward. And they're also positive about us dealing with the problems that we have had in the past. Problems such as corruption and problems such as bad governance, and we are putting in place the building stones of even a better South Africa moving forward.
As the country grapples with poverty and unemployment, economic growth is a priority for the new man at the helm, and his experience as a businessman has come in handy.
I deliberately felt that we needed to set a target so that we're not working in the dark. I want us to work towards something. When people focus on a target, they work even harder. And that is why I appointed 4 investment envoys to go around the world, in our own country and around the world, and try and campaign for investors to come to our country, and even those who are in the country to unlock their bank vaults and release the money so that we can build factories, we can invest in productive capacity and employ more and more of our people, particularly young people. Many young people are unemployed right now. That is what keeps me awake at night. I worry about this level of unemployment among young people. So this target of 1.2 trillion rand in 5 years, I believe we can achieve it, and we are going to work very hard to try and get there. Because if we can attract investment to that extent, that will begin to lift a lot of boats.
While the rating agencies have given South Africa a chance, concerns remain about political instability, and the political killings is an added challenge.
The political climate will always be a challenging one. We are a developing democracy, and there will always be challenges. Even in more developed democracy, there's always a challenge. And so you obviously have to work all the time towards making the political climate better, so that you have stability, so that you have certainty, particularly at the policy level. I focus more on the policy level and the regulatory framework, because that is what investors look out for. The political noise is something else. I mean, they know wherever they invest that there'll always be political noise and political competition. It is the policy certainty and the political stability that matters to investors.
On the international front, the president believes South Africa will reclaim its position on the global stage and is optimistic that South Africa will get support for its bid for the non-permanent seat at the Security Council. Voting will take place on the 6th of June 2018.
We are working very hard to win that seat on the Security Council. We've got the support of the African Union. We've got the support of a number of countries around the world, in the Caribbean and many other places. So we are working extremely hard to win the support of as many countries as we possibly can. We've been on the Security Council before, twice before. We want to go back for another season again. And what will we do? We want to make a contribution to peace in the world, the peace movement in the world that must spread, so that the world at a multilateral level must deepen its resolve to solve problems through dialogue, through discussion, and there should never be a moment where countries take unilateral action on issues that affect the world and many other countries, and indeed the people of the world. And of course, the other agenda item for us is sustainable development. Sustainable development at an economic level and also at an environmental level. We want to be pushing that agenda. And of course, human rights. Human rights for us is the bedrock of our international policy. So those are the key critical things that we want to promote. And of course, the sustainable developmental goals that have been adopted by the United Nations. And of course, we want to be pushing the African agenda, Agenda 2063. We want to be the flag bearers for Agenda 2063 at the international level. So if we get the opportunity to be on the Security Council, those are the key 5 issues that we will want to be pushing when we get there.
He is expected to attend the G20 meeting in Argentina, and later in September will make his first appearance at the United Nations General Assembly. 100 days in office, and a lot needs to be done before the 2019 national election. Sophie Mkwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, the ANC's highest decision-making body between conferences has still not decided who should succeed Supra Mahumapelo as Northwest Premier. The NEC has been meeting in Irene outside Pretoria since Friday.
100 days into President Cyril Ramaphosa's new dawn, the ANC continues to preach unity, but on the ground, members continue to die in alleged political killings.
For people to shoot at each other in a conference of the ANC, if that is true, what you are saying, we have just heard today, this morning, that somebody has been killed or shot at in Mpumalanga. We are going to address that matter. We need to get facts as to what happened.
The KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Elective Conference is scheduled for this weekend, but some regions have not concluded their conferences.
We are sensitive to the issues of KZN, and we are further going to look and send the team to KZN, not just to go to Harry Gwala or Moses Mabhida.
In the Free State, some remain disgruntled about the recently held Provincial Elective Conference and the new leadership. This too remains unresolved.
The chair of the Free State is in the meeting, Comrade Mashinini and Comrade Paseka Nompondo.
So it's been endorsed.
The fact that they are here, they will still give us a report, a consolidated report by the National Executive Committee members.
And at national level, the ANC remains divided on key issues.
The views of Comrade Kgalema was not the views of Kgalema as an individual. It was the views of that panel which was appointed by Parliament. And it was not the views of the ANC when it comes to the issue of traditional leadership and the land. And I think we're saying as the ANC, we need to accept and understand that there are other views, and we need to bring all these views together. We need to engage, and that's why we'll be engaged in the traditional leadership.
And a successor for former Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo remains a mystery.
The Provincial Executive Committee is supposed to give us 3 names. They have done so, but we further want to engage with the Provincial Executive Committee as well as other structures.
The ANC Ordinary NEC concludes today, and the President will launch the Tuma Mina campaign in the Northwest on the 2nd of June. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Irene, Pretoria.
Parliament is taking concrete steps to determine the feasibility of uprooting the legislature from Cape Town to Pretoria. For years, the ANC has been calling for legislative and administrative capitals to reside in the same province as a cost-cutting measure. But they are concerned whether the move is practical. Abra Barbia reports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
It's a conversation which comes and goes. But the ANC seems to finally be making moves.
With respect to the proposal of relocating Parliament from Cape Town to Pretoria, an external service provider, Pamoja Pty Ltd, has been appointed to conduct a 6-month socio-economic and impact study commencing this month.
For the Cape Chamber of Commerce, this is not good news.
Business in the Western Cape will suffer astronomically. There'll be a huge vacuum. But we also don't know if our economy can afford it at the moment. It'll be a huge capital outlay and many years, even to the extent of 10 years, before we even see a benefit.
The Council for the Advancement of the Constitution says wherever Parliament is located, people would still have to travel there. Its main concern is the staffing issue.
These are highly skilled technical staff that run this parliament, and you're going to ask over 1,000 people to relocate in order to do that. You know, that's something that needs to be taken into account. Do we have the capacity to recruit new people to run this parliament?
Some political parties also weighed in.
It must be done seriously, and in some of us are of the view that it is something that must be taken seriously, and a decision must be taken on the matter once and for all.
On the face of it, it makes sense for the administration, for the and Parliament to be in one area. I mean, this happens around the world, and it could be cost effective.
We are of the opinion that we have to stay where we are. If they bring forward that and prove that there is some austerity on this matter, then we can continue with that. But at this moment, there are no such proof.
The ANC says it will be leaving the matter up to the 6th Parliament to follow up on. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
All right, so let's cross over live to Lutuli House.
Committee that is preparing this centenary celebration of our icon and the first commander-in-chief from Umkhonto weSizwe, Comrade Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela. Let me first say this: came as an instruction from the 2017 National Executive Committee of the African National Congress that as all the structures of the ANC and the world celebrates the centenary of Nelson Mandela, Umkhonto weSizwe must also develop a program on how are they going to celebrate the centenary of the first commander-in-chief of Umkhonto weSizwe. So we've been planning this thing from last year. Now today we are launching the program of the celebration of our icon and the first commander-in-chief of Umkhonto weSizwe, Comrade Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela. Our statement reads thus: during the 67 years that our late former president, Comrade Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, fought against apartheid for the liberation of our country, he touched and changed the lives of almost every South African. Madiba was truly the father of the nation. Nowhere was his association stronger and influence more direct and greater than with Umkhonto weSizwe and the critical decision to take up arms against the repressive apartheid regime. True to his character as someone who always volunteered and did not wait on others but took the lead, Madiba, as he did when he became volunteer-in-chief during the Defiance campaign, volunteered to establish and lead Umkhonto weSizwe. The founding membership of Umkhonto weSizwe, as personified by Madiba, consisted of the most dedicated and militant cadres of the ANC and the South African Communist Party, who volunteered to join the armed struggle, knowing very well that they were putting their very lives on the line and were prepared to pay the ultimate price. This rich history of militant volunteerism permitted and characterized Umkhonto weSizwe throughout its existence and should be remembered when the ANC today again calls on volunteers to step forward. The volunteerism of the Defiance campaign and joining Umkhonto weSizwe was founded on a selfless commitment to fight for the full liberation of our people and the implementation of every clause of the Freedom Charter. The MKMVA is convinced that if Comrade Madiba was still alive, he would have worked tirelessly for unity in the African National Congress and including in Umkhonto weSizwe. We therefore see it as our duty to follow in his footsteps. Our first commander-in-chief would also have wanted all MK veterans to be united under the banner of one association, which is the MKMVA. Therefore, we commit ourselves to work for unity amongst all Umkhonto weSizwe veterans. The MKMVA embraces the theme of the ANC this year, which is titled The Year of Renewal, Unity and Jobs, and will work tirelessly to make it a reality. We are mentioning this thing because it is a challenge that is facing the ANC of unity. Because if the African National Congress is not united, it will not be able to lead society or be able to implement its programs of action or the resolutions of the conference. So the unity is non-negotiable, is paramount to MKMVA and to all members of the African National Congress. Madiba would also have been deeply concerned about the plight of many Umkhonto weSizwe veterans who live in dire poverty and do not have adequate housing, welfare, and medical care. In this centenary year, MKMVA also dedicate ourselves to honor our first commander-in-chief by pulling out all stops to address their plight, and to secure for them and their families lives of dignity and comfort. By the way, Mandela was very passionate about the plight of the former freedom fighters, including going outside to raise money for Umkhonto Wesizwe when he was released from prison. He did raise money for former freedom fighters of Umkhonto Wesizwe, and some of us, we shared it amongst ourselves instead of investing it. But he did have an interest on the welfare of our comrades. If he was still alive, Utata Mandela would be worried if comrades of MK are still suffering like this. The brutal manner in which many of our police officers are attacked and killed by criminals is a matter of grave concern. MKMVA is convinced that there is a deliberate effort to undermine our law enforcement agencies, whose legitimacy and effective operations are critical for the protection of our democratic state. MKMVA calls on all MK veterans to support and work with our police force and all other law enforcement agencies to address the evil scourge of police killings, including the escalation of the heist in the manner that they have been perpetrated, and to support the effective execution of their duties. Madiba would have expected nothing less from the liberation fighters that he led. We are raising this issue because in the manner that our policemen and women are being killed, and in the manner that there is an escalation of the heists, what you call cash heist in our country, it is clear to us as former soldiers that this is to undermine the government of the African National Congress, so that it must threaten stability, so that it must threaten investment, that people will say it is not safe to go invest in South Africa because the level of crime is very high. So we are going to go out as all former freedom fighters, and we call upon all former military veterans, whether you are in SADF or APLA or Azanla or TBVC states, to close ranks and assist our police men and women to deal with this issue of police killings and the cash heist. And we think if we can close ranks, we can be able to deal with these crimes that are happening in our country. Thus, it is the sacred duty of Umkhonto Wesizwe Military Veterans Association, as the custodian of this rich history of the revolutionary umbilical cord between Umkhonto Wesizwe and our first commander-in-chief, Comrade Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, to have developed a special program of activities to honor Madiba in this year of his centenary. There's a correction, there's not Madiba, it's Madiba. The centenary celebrations program that we announced today is not just a celebration of the past, but it's also very much intended to be instructive for how we should continue to conduct ourselves at this juncture of our liberation struggle in order to successfully conclude the implementation of the second phase of our national democratic revolution and ensure that the full liberation of our people that Umkhonto Wesizwe and now MKMVA always fought for will be achieved. You might be aware that we have been quiet for a long time as MKMVA because we have been assessing the situation and trying to make sure that the ANC is united and MKMVA is united. And therefore, it's our call that as we implement the second phase of our national democratic revolution, there is stability in the whole country. There is stability in the African National Congress. If people are disgruntled, they've got issues, they need to raise them in a proper way. If you're not happy about a particular person, it is not necessary to go and ban a hospital or to ban a school or a library. because tomorrow you are going to need it. I'm raising these issues as an example of what happened in the Northwest, regardless of issues that they had against Comrade Supra. But in the manner that our people behaved, it is uncalled for, and it is unacceptable, and we need to criticize it and condemn it. The centenary celebration program that we announced today is not just a celebration of the past, but it is also very much intended to be instructive. I repeat the same sentence again. Over the next couple of months, MKMVA will proudly host the following events. On the 30th of June, we will be in the Eastern Cape Province, the birthplace of Comrade Utata Mandela, Mvezo, where we'll be having events there, which will be jointly between the ANC, MKMVA, the Youth League, the community, and the family of Mandela Mvezo from his birthplace. Fortunately, I was once there in Mvezo. So the theme of that event, it is from combat to reconstruction and political mainstreaming. That's where Utata Nelson Mandela was born. On the 15th of July, the gala dinner. In Gauteng, we will be hosting this event in Gauteng province, which is Soweto. We'll have the memorial lecture, and the theme for this event, it is a theme that is for now the celebration of the centenary of our first commander-in-chief. Then in July, because this is a whole year celebration, why we are not doing it on the 18th, it is because it will now be the ANC and the world that will be celebrating the centenary of Utata Nelson Mandela. Therefore, we're giving that space, and we're joining the African National Congress and the whole world on that day in celebrating the centenary of Utata Nelson Mandela. On Saturday, the 28th of July, it will be the Western Cape. We will be visiting Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was arrested. We'll go to his cell, and later in the evening we'll have the gala dinner. One thing that we did not include here, of course, it will depend on whether we get funding for that. Would have liked to go to Howick, where he was arrested, Utata Nelson Mandela, and we're working very hard to raise funds that one of our events, it is to go to Howick in KZN, where Nelson Mandela was arrested. As part of honoring the 10th president of the ANC, the MKMVA has requested the ANC president, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, and Comrade Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma, who are the 11th and 12th former president of the ANC, respectively, to grace these scheduled events. To that extent, we have written a letter to the leadership of the African National Congress through the office of the SG. We are waiting for the response, but we are expecting a positive response because this is an instruction from the African National Congress that MKMVA must celebrate the centenary of Utata Nelson Mandela as their first commander-in-chief. To accompany these events, MKMVA has designed a special centenary logo based on the iconic photograph of Madiba in full MK combat uniform. When he visited MK training camps, it is Uganda, not Angola. It is Uganda because we had already withdrawn in Angola by then, shortly after his release from prison. This logo will appear on the clothing items that MKMVA specially designed to honor the Mandela centenary celebrations. This, amongst others, include a beautiful designed scarf and Cuban-style cap that you see me putting on. I hope, Neil, you have brought some for our media people here so that they can also celebrate the centenary of Nelson Mandela. They must show their colleagues that this is what we are doing as MKMVA. We have specifically decided on the Cuban cap in acknowledgement of the definitive role that the solidarity of the Cuban nation with our liberation struggle played in securing our liberation. Just recently, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the decisive Battle of Cuito Cuanaval, where the involvement of the powerful Cuban armed forces under the leadership of El Comandante Fidel Castro sent in revolutionary solidarity to Angola proved to be decisive in defeating the South African Defense Force of the apartheid regime. At Cuito Cuanaval and many other battles, MK soldiers fought shoulder to shoulder with their fellow Cuban compatriots. Although we are not actively involved in Cuito Cuanaval, but we're actively involved in the northern and eastern fronts of Angola, where we're fighting with the UNITA rebels. And that's where we lost most of our comrades. And we hope as we have planned that one day we'll go and exhume their remains and bring them back to their country and be buried and be given a dignified burial. The use of the Cuban cap furthermore acknowledges the close brotherly relations that existed throughout their lives between Comrade Nelson Mandela and El Comandante Fidel Castro. As we conclude, the centenary logo will also be prominently on display on all the banners that will form the backdrop to all the centenary celebration that MKMVA will host this year, as well as all other MKMVA activities and statements and publications that we will issue during the course of this year. We are proud to put this here on display for the media to view and to report on, so that as we speak about the centenary of Nelson Mandela, you don't just show Mandela from prison, but you now show the side of Mandela that he was a member of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Wear uniform there in his uniform. That as was never going to as the custodian. As you celebrate it, don't forget that he was once the commander-in-chief of Umkhonto we Sizwe and the first commander-in-chief of South Africa and the new army in South Africa. MKMVA furthermore invites the media to write about this centenary celebration events and to popularize them in the spirit of celebrating the iconic life of the father of our nation. The media is invited to use the MKMVA Nelson Mandela Centenary logo when reporting on all these activities. MKMVA will ensure that quality copies of high resolution will be available for your use, working closely with you, the media, as our friends, because we know without you, our message won't be able to reach our people. And we appreciate for you to come to our launch, so that as we talk about this history of the struggle, of our struggle icon, a hero, a giant, a leader of Umkhonto we Sizwe, you support us in popularizing this event. We hope maybe more sponsors would come on board to support the technical team of MKMVA led by Comrade Nel de Beer to make it a success that will ultimately go to Howick. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Kebby. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions, this is now the time for you to raise your hands and ask those questions. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to get a comment on the current political events since the weekend. MKMVA was shot at a regional conference. And it also appears to be rolled up in the politically motivated killings in KZN. And in one way or another, these killings were linked to either an elective conference, whether regional or racial. And perhaps this is symptomatic of a wider problem of how the contestation of oppositions generates to violence. Therefore, why are ANC members killing each other with oppositions? And are you perhaps concerned that the contestation of political power has now brought in a subculture of violence?
Thank you, Bonola. Cindy, I'll ask, and we'll do, because there are not many of us here, we'll do the whole number of questions and then give our leadership here an opportunity to respond. Cindy?
Thank you so much. My question is in regards to something you alluded to when you were proposing the business, mentioning that the violence that actually happened in the Northwest should not have transpired in the way that it did. But leading up to that, we also have a recording where Super actually mentioned in his own report saying that he feels as though there's a purge that's happening, or he feels as though he's targeted. That the MKMVA is a target to those that supported Newsroom before the national elected conference.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Migrant. I want to know whether MP can support by General Security and as part of the celebration, because you spoke about unity and that the two were still vast apart. I want to know because of their plans to unify MK veterans as you curricularly. And then my second question is on the political prisoners. We still have prisoners from those who are aligned to PAC, the other, and for those from IFP who are still in prison. Whereas we don't have any, from the party side, former generals have been sort of in prison, including former, Korean security officer. Whereas those from PAC and IFP are still in prison. I want to know, your take on this one, whether you are trying to push to make sure that all political prisoners are released from prison. Thank you, that's much.
Thank you. Any other questions? No more questions. Comrade Kebby, Comrade Jan, if you want to respond.
Let me start with this one. The last one that raised by Montlenyana Dipuku is that indeed it is our program of action and one of our resolution that we'd want all those comrades who were arrested for politically motivated activities, underline, for politically motivated activities, be released. We have started that. Fortunately, the person who have just come in, Masachaba Mkloung, she's the one who's heading that thing, including the expansion, is the correct English, expungement of the criminal records. I was listening to one radio station today that one person is from prison. He graduated, he's a lawyer, but he can't practice because of this criminal record. Equally so, we have got many of our MK cadres who were arrested when we came back from exile. They have educated themselves, some are still in prison, some are out, and they are highly qualified. But they can't get employment because of this criminal record. So we are persuading, we are in engagement with the Justice and Correctional Services Department that we should separate these criminals. We must have your politically motivated activities which made our people to be arrested and they are now out. That by then the TRC, it did not also address all the issues of our members, including the APLA cadres. I don't want to be a spokesperson of the IFP and other associations. I will speak when I'm a deputy minister somewhere. But now I'm wearing the cap of MKMVA. I will speak on behalf of MKMVA. But it's our wish that all former freedom fighters who were arrested for politically motivated activities be released or be given a pardon, and the expungement of these criminal records. Because why we call it correctional services, it is because we think those people have been rehabilitated. And I can speak from the side of the MK comrades, which I know. Some of them, they're just 2 weeks they were released, they called me. And I trained them in Uganda. They were arrested for killing white farmers before they went to exile. But when they came back for integration, when they went on leave at Valmansdal during integration, they were arrested and sentenced to life. It's just now that they have been released. So there is somewhere that our organization also did not treat our MK comrades correctly. And we're trying to address that. Such comrades must be reintegrated back into society. So how do you expect to reintegrate criminals back into society, but you deny them a role to play, an active role, like practicing as lawyers? You are not reintegrating them to society. You have not corrected them. So they will become disgruntled and do one and the same thing. So those who have been rehabilitated, we think the issue of expungement of the criminal records should be prioritized. It is our program as MKMVA. We are in discussions with the MK Council Muntlanyana Dipuku. Just last week on Tuesday, we had a meeting with them convened by the Peace and Stability of the ANC, which is chaired by Comrade Tony Yangeni. I'm not privy to make those pronouncements for now. It is Comrade Tony Yangeni who will make a pronouncement on the progress made on our engagements with the MK Council, because we want unity. So we will be inviting them into this event, because it's not an event of MKMVA. It's an event of all former members of Umkhonto weSizwe. Mandela was a commander-in-chief of all former members of Umkhonto weSizwe. So as the leading structure, we are calling upon all former members of Umkhonto weSizwe to support this program of our first commander-in-chief. So indeed, we will be meeting, we are meeting with MK Council. We will be involving them in this program of celebrating Nelson Mandela. And we think, as we have said in our statement, it will make a way of coming together as former Umkhonto weSizwe members and become united. Bonolo, indeed, the political events, whether politically or not, it is worrying also to us. And that is why we're calling upon all our former members of Umkhonto weSizwe to assist the African National Congress and to assist our police and our intelligence services to make sure that these killings that are happening in the country, they must come to an end, and those perpetrators are exposed and are arrested. It is worrying to us, but we have not yet found out or concluded that indeed this was a political killing, unless if there's a proof that somebody was arrested because he was contesting with Comrade Kirby and they planned to kill or assassinate him because they want position. So these are still allegations, and we want to allow the law enforcement to do their work, and we know that the Minister of Police and the President himself has prioritized, he went to KZN himself to show that he's serious about these things of the killings, to prioritize the investigations and to ultimately stop these killings. We know that previously, we remember in KZN was unstable because of there was a third force involved. So we're not saying there's a third force now, but we are saying we need, as MKMVA members, to assist the African National Congress. And the instruction has been issued by the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, that these things must come to a stop. We must, as MKMVA members, assist the African National Congress. It can't be our members who are killing each other. It is wrong. It's reactionary. It's counter-revolutionary. Those people do not belong to the ANC if indeed it is about political contestation. But generally, everybody knows that when there are elections, there is contestation. It's normal. There's nothing wrong. But if a contestation, it is going to be physical and be bloody, it's no more contestation, it's criminal activities. And it's counter-revolutionary, and the ANC must be able to deal with it brutally. If it can be found out those are members of the ANC who are involved in those activities, they don't deserve to be members of the ANC. They must go and rot in prison. In Mpumalanga yesterday, it was not an MKMVA vis-a-vis MKMVA killings. The information that we have now, which we're still waiting, unfortunately our Deputy President, that is why he's not here. He is attending to that issue in Mpumalanga because he's from Mpumalanga. They have went to the family and investigating. It's that there was a conference of the ANC Youth League in Mpumalanga, and MKMVA normally, it is used to protect or to bring order in the meetings of the ANC. So there was a scaffold there, we were told, and when they were trying to assist, and they are saying the information that we have is that those people were not even delegates at the conference, but there were people from nowhere who came in and they started shooting. So we will issue out a statement very soon once the Deputy President of the MKMVA gives us a briefing, but we are very worried, very, very, very worried about what transpired yesterday in Mpumalanga, that it seems as if the issue of coming with guns into the meetings of the African National Congress, it is becoming normal. And we want to say to you, the media, that the ANC must make sure, and MKMVA, rest assured, one person called me yesterday that is, I don't want to mention his name, that he's being arrested for the killing. And I said, submit yourself to the police. He's with the police, he's under arrest now. We're waiting for the further information. As I'm saying, later we will issue out a statement in regards to that, but we have lost one of our members who was doing a very diligent duty of defending the ANC meetings, because sometimes these criminals, they disrupt conferences or BGMs of the ANC. I think the Northwest issue, you see, we as MKMVA were very frank, and we are taught this thing in the camps, that there's constructive criticism and self-criticism. And if there's something that is wrong, we must say it as is, and not to hide it, because it is going to create a problem. There was contestation towards the conference, and there was preferences. And the preferences, it was between Comrade Nkosazana and Comrade President Cyril Ramaphosa. And we as MKMVA, we remember we repeated that thing, that before the conference, we'll accept the outcome of the conference. And we have made that, we're continuing. That is why even in our statement, we're calling for unity in the African National Congress. We are not aware of any patch as MKMVA. But in the manner that we have observed things, you see faces of the African National Congress members and alliance members issuing out statements. And it's a worrying factor to us, and we want the ANC to be decisive on that matter, that it must not just be left like that. Where we are seated is that they might have influenced the communities to uprise against the leadership of the Premier Supreme Mahuma Bill, where we are seated as MKMVA. Because in the manner that they have been issuing statements, it is clear that there have been a deliberate plan to overthrow Premier Supreme Mahuma Bill. I don't have a problem if people have challenges about me or Premier Supreme Mahuma Bill. It should be clear that they must raise their issues according to the procedure of the ANC. But in the manner that thing that has been happening, and listening and watching ANC members issuing statements, and the alliance structures members issuing statements, to an extent of shutting down a hospital and people die. It can't be right if you call yourself a revolutionary. You close down a hospital and you say you are a leader of society, you want to defend the revolution and the people, but you don't allow them that facilities. People died in Northwest. We can't condone that. It is wrong. Whether there are challenges or what, but it is wrong for our alliance structures would have allowed the membership to shut down hospitals. Those are essential services. That is why the army went there, to assist. So we are saying as MKMVA, we are not aware of the patch for now, but in the manner things have been unfolding in Northwest, seeing ANC and the alliance structures leaders issuing out statements, it is clear that there's factionalism. Well, it's very rife in Northwest, but it can't be correct, and the ANC can't allow that thing to happen like that. So I think we want to call upon our people in Northwest that let them come down, let them give the leadership of the ANC space, let them give down the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa space to resolve these issues, as we have alluded according to the crime, that this way the president is calling for investment. Here in the country, we see an opposite thing, that crime is going up. Killings of the police is going up. It's not happening in the world. It is here in South Africa. So as MKMVA, we can't sit back and not analyze correctly. We will analyze correctly, and in the manner that they are being actioned. You see, these are professional people. They have rehearsed these things many a times. And in the time that they do that action, it tells you something. That is, it's not just your normal civilians who can do such things at a space of time. We are speaking from experience here. That's why I'm saying that we will say things as they are as MKMVA. But in the manner that things are happening, we suspect that there might be an element of it's military style, and it might have an element of an inside job. We don't rule out disgruntled, whether there are police or security people that are involved, but the style of that modus operandi tells us something that even when we're trained to do operations, we knew that it must be time and space. And in 3 minutes, you are finished, you are done, you are gone, out of space. A normal civilian will never pull such a mission. So we must not be afraid to say, we suspect that there are some element of military and police tendencies there. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think I just would like to add 2 points to what Comrade Kebi said. I think we have to be very careful as the African National Congress what happens on social media. And some of the attacks that took place on social media can create the impression that informally among some members of the African National Congress there's a tendency to try and purge others. That does not mean that formally we believe or understand that there is any such purge. But the behavior of some members of the ANC on social media is unacceptable. And in due course, the African National Congress will have to face this issue, and where necessary will have to take the necessary disciplinary action against such members. We also have a tendency that all kinds of informal organizations and structures seem to talk on behalf of the ANC or purport to talk on behalf of the ANC. There's this structure that talks in the Northwest that call themselves the Revolutionary Council. Now that structure has got no representative right, and it does not talk on behalf of the ANC or any of the structures of the African National Congress. Let me just conclude by saying something about this issue of the expansion of criminal records. I myself, as I stand in front of you here, had been found guilty of high treason. That criminal record had not been expunged. So it still formally, although it is obviously not acknowledged by the South African government, stands. And when one travels and when you go to countries such as the United States of America, it becomes a problem. So we really should pay attention to this issue, formally expunge those criminal records. So when we travel, we do not rely on the mercy of the goodwill of any country, including the United States, to give us all kinds of exclusions on visas in order to be able to travel freely. So ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the issues that needs to be addressed. Thank you for coming to this press conference. I'm happy that we had the number of people from your side who turned out today, because sometimes we tend to get a full house when there's a negative story. But when we have a positive announcement and presentation as we have today, celebrating the life of Comrade President Nelson Mandela, the media do not seem to think always it's worthy to report it. So we thank you for coming to report on this. I see that my comments now have generated a question. Please proceed.
from our neighboring country were in the country, and they were appointed as part of this security company, part of the security company, private security company. And Rwanda was the biggest cash we had at the OR campus some years back, and those who were involved, I mean, they were caught at the boundary trying to cross to our neighboring country. So are you concerned that some of these former soldiers from our neighboring countries were involved in this cash transfer? You spoke about some of them babies. I mean, it's quite clear that they are. I mean, they know what they're doing. They are military experts. Are you saying that? Are you actually implying that our former soldiers from our neighboring countries are involved in some of this occasion transfer?
Comrade Yanganetse will respond, and Comrade Kebi afterwards if he still wants to.
Yes. No, thank you. I think we are equally very much disturbed by the rate at which this cash-in transit are happening. It is quite shocking. I'm told there was a cash-in transit today in Polokwane, somewhere in Muleji. We are very much disturbed as MKMVA, but we have a very strong belief that our intelligence, our police are doing their best to unmask. At this point in time, we don't want to speculate and qualify the belief that this might be as a result of foreign people that are here from foreign countries. We don't want to believe that, but I'm very much under the impression that the police are working around the clock. We had a number of successes, a number of culprits were arrested in the past week, and I strongly believe that the Minister of Police, Comrade Beki Cele, together with the National Commissioner and the team within the law enforcement agencies, are working around the clock. We are at the same note calling on our MKMVA structures to put an ear to the ground and report. Crime prevention is not only the responsibility of the police, it's a collective responsibility. The citizen, our people in general, should have a very serious contribution towards stopping this. We cannot have a situation where every day we get stories of cash-in, and the method in which these things are done. Explosives are used. It only sends us a message that we are actually having a very big problem. But I'm very sure that very soon the people that are involved will be arrested. And then, out of the complexion of what we'll be having, of the people that are arrested, we can only give you an accurate statement. Thank you.
Yes,
that's MKMVA media briefing with regards to what's been taking place and honouring Madiba in the year of Madiba, coming to us live from Lutuli House. Of course, the leader there, Kebi Matsoi, of course, addressing the media there with their plans and how they plan to commemorate Madiba throughout this year, as well as also condemning the recent attacks and police killings that we've seen in KZN, as well as the ongoing violence and unrest in the northwest. We take a short break here on SABC Newsroom. When we come back, headlines on your top stories.
No. Yes. Yes.
Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
SABCnews.com is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. With a website that is easy to use on mobile, SABC News prides itself in being the primary source of public service content across multiple platforms. Watch live streams of all the big news events on the SABC News YouTube channel, which is one of the most viewed South African YouTube channels globally. And catch up on the best of SABC television and radio news. Follow breaking news on all of the SABC News social media platforms, interact with SABC News on Facebook, and stay connected on Twitter for the latest headlines and real-time updates by our reporters. SABC News, everywhere.
Very good morning to you. Welcome to SABC. You're watching Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Let's have a look at your top story. While Limpopo police are searching for a group of armed cash and transit robbers. They have made off with an undisclosed amount of money. According to police, nobody was shot. However, the driver and the security guards who were inside the vehicle have been rushed to hospital to be treated for shock. Limpopo Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Neke Ledwaba says they are investigating the incident.
This matter has been reported to us that there was a cash in transit. So here we are on the scene to just come and do investigation in terms of whatever that had happened. But the information further says to us that this car traveled from point A to B on the way there to, that is now I'm referring to the crime scene itself. It had happened that it was shot, the tires were shot off, then from it happened to be stopped. And then now the drivers were pointed with firearms, then they went out, and then it was, it was exploded. They took the money, and then away they went.
But do we know at this stage just how much was taken from the fence, and the guards, are they safe? Are there any injuries that were reported to you?
Well, as at now, we don't know about the injuries. It's just that, they are shocked, those drivers, so we took them to the hospital in any case. But as to how much was taken, it's not yet known since we are still on the scene.
And this road is notoriously known for cash in transit heists, because a week or so ago, there was another heist here. For sure, that must be a worrying factor for you.
Indeed, it is. The crux of the matter here is that the language that we are talking at all times, we are saying the working relationship between the police and the community. Dealing, it will ensure that the province together with the country is really very much safe. So hence we are saying we are having meetings with them. Then this matter is just going to be very raised down there to say, why didn't we know about that? The crux of the matter is that for us to be really very much successful, we are banking on information from the communities themselves.
And lastly, before I let you go, Commissioner, was there anyone who was arrested? Is there any lead?
As at now, hence we are still under investigation, no arrest has been made, but we are following the information up.
Meanwhile, 5 men arrested in connection with the daring daylight cash and transit heist in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg, 2 weeks ago, are expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. Well, the suspects face charges of armed robbery with aggravating circumstances, attempted murder and the possession of prohibited firearms and ammunition. It's alleged the suspects ambushed 2 G4S cash vans and blew them open with commercial explosives before fleeing with an undisclosed amount of cash. The suspects were all arrested at the George Gach Hospital in Johannesburg following a high-speed chase and shootout with police. Well, several firearms, including AK-47 rifles, ammunition and some of the stolen money were seized. The remaining suspects are still at large. Let's have a look at some other news stories this morning. The Free State High Court in Bloemfontein is also expected to make a ruling over the freezing of 180 million rand in assets of 8 people accused of fraud and other charges relating to the multi-million rand Estina dairy farm project today. Gupta-linked companies recently challenged a provisional restraint order which the asset forfeiture unit obtained against the 8 in April, while a criminal case against them is pending. The 8 were arrested during raids at various locations in February, including the Gupta compound in Saxonwold and their offices in Sandton. The Supreme Court of Appeal will today hear arguments by the convicted coffin assault duo Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Jackson on their sentences and convictions. Well, the pair were granted leave to appeal in February after the High Court sitting in Middelburg Magistrates Court dismissed their application for leave to appeal in October of 2017. Well, Jackson and Oosthuizen, the men who forced Victor Mhlotshwa into a coffin, were sentenced to 11 years and 14 years respectively behind bars. They want both of their convictions and sentences overturned. A 19-year-old man is expected to appear before the Vryburg Magistrates Court this morning in connection with the deaths of 2 schoolgirls. Well, parents, school management and learners at Hoërskool Stella in the northwest are still reeling in shock after 2 learners were hanged in the hostel this weekend. According to police, the hostel matron found 1 girl hanging from the rails of a staircase in the hostel, while the other girl was found in one of the bathrooms with a rope around her neck. Well, MKV Chair Kebi Batswai has condemned the killing of a 47-year-old Umkhonto weSizwe Veterans League member yesterday. He was shot and killed during the NC Youth League's regional conference at the Mananza near Barberton in Mpumalanga. Batswai was speaking at the MKMVA media briefing on the Nelson Mandela centenary a short while ago.
In Mpumalanga yesterday, it was not an MKMVA vis-a-vis MKMVA killings. The information that we have now, which we're still waiting, unfortunately our Deputy President, that is why he's not here. He is attending to that issue in Mpumalanga because he's from Mpumalanga. They have went to the family and investigating. It's that there was a conference of the ANC Youth League in Mpumalanga, and MKMVA normally it is used to protect or to bring order in the meetings of the ANC. So there was a scaffold there, we were told, and when they were trying to assist, and they are saying the information that we have is that those people were not even delegates at the conference, but there were people from nowhere who came in and they started shooting. So we will issue out a statement very soon once the Deputy President of the MKMVA gives us a briefing, but we are very worried, very worried about what transpired yesterday in Mpumalanga, that it seems as if the issue of coming with guns into the meetings of the African National Congress, it is becoming normal. And we want to say to you, the media, that the ANC must make sure, and MKMVA, rest assured, one person called me yesterday that is being, I don't want to mention his name, that he's being arrested for the killing. And I said, submit yourself to the police. He's with the police, he's under arrest now. We're waiting for the further information. As I'm saying, later we will issue out a statement in regards to that, but we have lost one of our members who was doing a very diligent duty of defending the ANC meetings, because sometimes these criminals, they disrupt conferences or BGMs of the ANC.
Well, the ANC's highest decision-making body between conferences has still not decided who should succeed Supra Mahumapilu as Northwest Premier. Well, the NEC has been meeting in Irene outside Pretoria since Friday.
100 days into President Cyril Ramaphosa's new dawn, the ANC continues to preach unity, but on the ground, members continue to die in alleged political killings.
For people to shoot at each other in a conference of the ANC, if that is true, what you are saying, we have just heard today, this morning, that somebody has been killed or shot at in Mpumalanga. We are going to address that matter. We need to get facts as to what happened.
The KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Elective Conference is scheduled for this weekend, but some regions have not concluded their conferences.
We are sensitive to the issues of KZN, and we are further going to look and send the team to KZN, not just to go to Harry Gwala or Moses Mabhida.
In the Free State, some remain disgruntled about the recently held Provincial Elective Conference and the new leadership. This too remains unresolved.
The chair of the Free State is in the meeting, Comrade Mashinini and Comrade Paseka Nompondo.
So it's been endorsed.
The fact that they are here, they will still give us a report, a consolidated report by the National Executive Committee members.
And at national level, the ANC remains divided on key issues.
The views of Comrade Kgalema was not the views of Kgalema as an individual. It was the views of that panel which was appointed by Parliament. And it was not the views of the ANC when it comes to the issue of traditional leadership and the land. And I think we're saying as the ANC, we need to accept and understand that there are other views, and we need to bring all these views together. We need to engage, and that's why we'll be engaged in the traditional leadership.
And a successor for former Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo remains a mystery.
The Provincial Executive Committee is supposed to give us 3 names. They have done so, but we further want to engage with the Provincial Executive Committee as well as other structures.
The ANC Ordinary NEC concludes today, and the President will launch the Tuma Mina campaign in the Northwest on the 2nd of June. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Irene, Pretoria.
Well, Parliament is taking concrete steps to determine the feasibility of uprooting the legislature from Cape Town to Pretoria. For years, the ANC has been calling for the legislative as well as administrative capitals to reside in the same province as a cost-cutting measure. But there are concerns whether the move is practical. SABC's Abra Barbara reports.
Madam Speaker.
It's a conversation which comes and goes. But the ANC seems to finally be making moves.
With respect to the proposal of relocating Parliament from Cape Town to Pretoria, an external service provider, Pamoja Pty Ltd, has been appointed to conduct a 6-month socio-economic and impact study commencing this month.
For the Cape Chamber of Commerce, this is not good news.
Business in the Western Cape will suffer astronomically. There'll be a huge vacuum. But we also don't know if our economy can afford it at the moment. It'll be a huge capital outlay and many years, even to the extent of 10 years, before we even see a benefit.
The Council for the Advancement of the Constitution says wherever Parliament is located, people would still have to travel there. Its main concern is the staffing issue.
These are highly skilled technical staff that run this Parliament, and you're going to ask over 1,000 people to relocate in order to do that. You know, that's something that needs to be taken into account. Do we have the capacity to recruit new people to run this Parliament?
Some political parties also weighed in.
It must be done seriously, and in some of us are of the view that it is something that must be taken seriously, and a decision must be taken on the matter once and for all.
On the face of it, it makes sense for the administration, for the and Parliament to be in one area. I mean, this happens around the world, and it could be cost effective.
We are of the opinion that we have to stay where we are. If they bring forward that and prove that there is some austerity on this matter, then we can continue with that. But at this moment, there are no such proof.
The ANC says it will be leaving the matter up to the 6th Parliament to follow up on. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, to unpack the feasibility of moving Parliament from Cape Town to the capital city of Pretoria, we're now joined in studio by Unathi Sonwabile Henama, a tourism lecturer from the Tshwane University of Technology. Very good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
You know, off air, you were just talking about specifically the outsourcing of this company that has now been allegedly already looking into the move. Just take us through your initial reaction and your perception.
When I heard about the move and the company appointed, I was asking myself, okay, this company, who are they? What's their track record? Because during this era, we obviously need reputable companies that do this. I would have understood if they went for Grant Thornton, but let's not jump the gun. Let's give them a chance, but we will judge them on the results that come by. Anyway, nowadays, reputation is always important when you're conducting such important studies. And considering how much debate this has caused, we'll be looking.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the matter at hand. Of course, this is not the first time that this has been discussed and now proposed. Let's have a look at the feasibility from an economic standpoint.
I'm of the belief that Cape Town will not actually lose much if they lose the Parliament. Cape Town is a mega tourism city. And when you move Parliament and you move it to Pretoria, first and foremost, it will cut a lot of costs for government. But for the Cape Town economy, they don't need Parliament because they will take that heritage site, which is an initial key point, which will be more accessible, actually to attract more people to come into the CBD of Cape Town. And then for Pretoria, which is very, very important, the cost cutting, because you must understand, if I'm a minister, I must have a house this side and I must have a house in Cape Town. I must have a support staff here and I must have support staff in Cape Town. And all these years we've been speaking about a bloated cabinet, we've been speaking about bloated government revenue. So we have to cut it down, and there's no time to waste time in trying to achieve these ends. But because of politics, we have to rise above that and do what is in the best interest of South Africa. And cutting costs for a broke government is the thing to do right now.
In terms of impact, the pros and cons on our tourism, both, I suppose, in Pretoria as well as in Cape Town?
From Cape Town, let's be honest, Cape Town is the most important tourism destination we have in the country. So whether Parliament is there or not, Cape Town will keep on winning, especially when they've got what we call the Cape Town Air Access Initiative, which has ensured more people arrive in Cape Town. For Pretoria, it might be great because the way it's going to be placed is going to be placed around the area of Freedom Park, which is a new development to try and bring in more investment to that area. Already now, the head office of Stats SA is located around that area. So it will also be great for Pretoria, but at the center of all of this is cost cutting by government, which is a very, very broke government.
Apart from the cost cutting, what sort of other economic impacts, whether they're good or bad, that this could have on the Gauteng province?
On the Gauteng province, I believe we might have more traffic, which might be a bit negative, more blue lights. Another issue is that it might also become an additional heritage site because we are putting it around the Freedom Park area, which will obviously enhance the visibility from a tourism perspective as people, because what you have, you've got Hosmampuru prison on the other side, then you've got Freedom Park, then you'll have the Parliament. So it might give the area a new tourism spin where people might be more interested, which is obviously great for the area.
Indeed. You know, also just another hot topic that I just wanted to get your view on. What do you make of that 2.4 million rand deal? I'm not sure if you've heard about it, from SAA Express actually giving it to a local music promoter. What are your views on that?
It's very disappointing that because SA Express has a 10-year deal to be supplied fuel by SAA. And for executives at SA Express to sign a deal for 2.7 billion rands to supply petrol is firstly criminal, and they must be taken to task and might be taken to jail because this is a corrupt activity that they've undertaken in. Because SA Express is incorporated in terms of company law, they must be held individually responsible for these corrupt activities. And it's unfortunate that people are wasting money during these tough times when even we are experiencing a VAT increase because of the high levels of corruption that have impacted on our lives as South Africans. This is very disappointing and they must be taken to task. But again, we must be appreciative that investigative journalism in this country is doing their job and these things are coming to light.
You know, from a social standpoint and the economic woes that are perceived to be on South Africa, you know, what sort of impact, you know, do stories like this that come to light have?
First and foremost, they show us that the height of state capture was really, really true in our country. That a lot of money has been lost because money was siphoned for other ends which are not developmental in nature as a country. Today, we are experiencing those woes because we are paying more for the corruption. But we must also be very, very hard on our law enforcement agencies and hold people accountable for their actions.
Definitely. We thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Unati Sonwabile Henama, a tourism lecturer from the Tshwane University of Technology, not only speaking about those SAA woes in that story there, as well as the possible move from Parliament from Cape Town to Pretoria. Let's have a look now at some other news. Well, a cold front will be making landfall by early this afternoon in the southwestern Cape. The South African Weather Services have issued a warning for heavy rain resulting in flooding for the Cape Metro areas as well as many parts of the western areas for both parts of the Overberg as well as the Cape Town winelands. We now talk to Mandy Thomas, a spokesperson at the City of Cape Town Disaster Risk Management Centre, about contingency measures in place. A very good morning to you, Mandy. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Essentially, just take us through these very vital emergency plans that are in place for the face of the weather warning in the Cape Town areas.
Yes, thank you for having me. Our disaster management plan incorporates all our city services as well as SASA as well as NGOs who will assist us in any eventuality that should happen in Cape Town. So we're looking at our service department like roads and stormwater for roads that are flooded. We are looking at our recreation and parks department who might open up walls if people need to be evacuated. Our electricity department, should we have any electric cables that are down because of the strong gale force winds that we are expecting. SASA will provide humanitarian aid and so forth. So we've got a whole menagerie of departments that can assist us during this period in time.
Now, which areas are being concentrated with regards to efforts as well as rescue disaster management personnel and resources?
The resources are deployed throughout the city. If what the weather office is saying that it's going to be fairly widespread, and we're looking at both informal and formal sectors. So we do concentrate on the informal settlements because they are our vulnerable groups, and we will concentrate our efforts there. But if there are roads that are flooded, formal settlements that are flooded, we will also respond to those areas.
In terms of, communicating the message to, the necessary residents as well as some of the vulnerable areas, what sort of communication lines have been dealt with this?
We normally have our media strategy where we have about 200 journalists that we will inform, and they will then do the broadcasting for us on various networks, social networks, radio, TV, and so forth.
And in terms of, if any residents do find themselves in trouble or in a sticky or dangerous situation, can you just give us, some of the communication channels and lines that they can be able to communicate?
Yes, the city does have a dedicated emergency communication number, and we phone 107 from a landline. And then if people have only access to a cell phone, the number is 021 480 7700. This is our emergency number for all life-threatening emergencies.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Mandy Thomas from Cape Town Disaster Risk Management Services with regards to some of the weather that is expected in some parts of the Western Cape as well as the contingency plans for that. Having a look at some other news. Today seems to be the deadline for the Gauteng online application for both grade 1s and grade 8s for the year 2019. The Gauteng department says it has so far processed 500,000 applications. And for more on the story, we are joined in studio by Gauteng Department of Education spokesperson, Mr. Steve Mabona. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
essentially 500,000 applications already coming in. It's not even halfway through the year for 2019. Just take us through the process and any possible challenges that are being experienced.
Look, we are actually indebted to parents. I mean, we receive an overwhelming support from all the parents, and it shows that actually parents are confident in our system. You will understand that 2 years back we had technical glitches, but this time around we did not have. We just had minor challenges, which some of them were resolved, quickly. Our call center was, working tirelessly just to make sure that they assist those parents who are struggling, in terms of, utilization of the system. But it was quite an easy, actually, journey for most of the parents, because it was taking them maximum 10 minutes. They will be done. They will receive an SMS confirming that the application has been processed, give them a reference number. What we want to indicate is that tonight we are closing the system. System will shut down. We'll be preparing for the placement of learners. There are parents who have already applied and they did not submit documents. We have a concession, that is a special concession with the schools, all the schools, the 5th of June 2018 at 2 o'clock. That will be the deadline for submission of documents. And we know, I mean, when we peruse the system, that there's so many of those parents who have not submitted, because the schools must then capture the documents on the system, which will then be communicating with the district offices to say, these are the number of applications that we've captured already. Then they'll submit that list to the district. So a parent that does not submit documentation, it means you're going to, lose your queue status, because we understand that in this process, it's first come, first serve, depends highly on when you applied. Hence, we're encouraging people to apply on time. So we are saying those parents really need to adhere to the 5th of June to submit the documents. But those that will be applying now, that we have 7 working days to supply your documentation. We'll do that. On the 18th of July, that's when we'll be placing the learners, and we'll be sending them, the parents, SMSs to say the learner is placed at a certain school.
Come the 18th of July, if a parent of a grade 1 or a grade 8 student child, says my child has not been placed, what then, what sort of avenues does that parent have for that child to enroll for the 2019 academic year?
Look, we will make sure that all learners are placed. Remember, we will do that from the 18th of July up until August. On the 6th of August, that process will then lapse. All those that the schools could not place, now it will be for the department head office to commence with that process, interact with the system and check how many of those that have not been placed, and then they will be placing them up until October. Hence, we are saying it's important for parents to apply now. Don't wait up until next year, because it gives us an ample time for us to actually plan ahead. We'll be knowing in terms of your learner material, how many books are we taking, where if we need more teachers, we'll be in a position to do that. We have scholar transport, we must plan ahead for that. So there's so many things that we must do, which will then enhance the system and the quality of education that we want to provide in Gauteng.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Well, there you heard it from the spokesperson from Gauteng Department of Education, Mr. Steve Mabona. Of course, it is a D-Day for grade 1 learners as well as a grade 8 learners to send in those applications for the academic 2019 year. Let's have a look now at some news abroad. The Tunisian southern island of Jeddah is home to some 1,200 Jewish citizens whose coexistence with their Muslim neighbors is a sign of mutual tolerance in the Northern African country. Well, the two groups say they enjoy living with one another and there is mutual respect between them.
Every year in May, pilgrims at the southern island of Jeddah, Tunisia, come together for the Lakboma festival at the Griba synagogue. This is a religious ceremony that has been a central tradition for Jewish Tunisians. The event serves as a powerful sign of mutual tolerance in Jaba, where the Muslim and Jewish communities have long coexisted. Muslim religious leaders also take a chance to go to the synagogue to preach the gospel of interreligious tolerance.
We want to send out a message of hope for coexistence between Jews and Muslims. Even Christians were there through a church official. And this is also a message to the world, even to France, where there is unfortunately a rise in anti-Semitism. I think it is better that we coexist, that we break the barriers and create an atmosphere of love and coexistence. We must get rid of the bitterness, hatred and malice. This is what we want. I hope that people will reach a level of real coexistence between the Jewish and Muslim communities.
During the ceremony, they light candles, pray, write hopes for the future on an egg and later place the eggs in a cave. Tunisia is home to one of North Africa's largest Jewish community. They have lived in the country since the Roman times. This community, which was numbered at 100,000 in the 1960s, has gone down to around 2,000 today, with more than 1,200 living in the southern island of Jaba. Factors such as state-tolerated violence against the Jews following Israel's victory in the 1967 Six-Day War contributed to the aftermath. Nonetheless, residents in Jaba believe in a peaceful atmosphere.
Tunisia has been home to Judaism and Arabs for thousands of years and will be home to them for thousands more. We do not use the word tolerance because it implies that there is a grudge that needs to be forgiven. We coexist as brothers with no differences. There are similarities between a Jew and a Muslim, no differences. They are alike. They have eyes and I have eyes. A nose as well. He has one and I have one. And the same for the mouth. Why would we talk about tolerance then? Tolerance is not in our dictionary.
Most of them now live in Harakiba neighborhood next to Muslim homes. Despite their small number, Jewish people have a strong presence in the economic life of Jaba. The old Medina is full of jewelry shops, most of which are run by Jews.
I have a Jewish neighbor, and this is my Muslim neighbor. And here, I have another Jewish neighbor, and another Muslim neighbor. We all live together as Tunisians. Nothing can separate us. Whether you're a Jew or a Muslim, there is no difference. Religion is between every person and his creator. Sometimes I tell them to come join Islam, and they respond by telling me to join Judaism. Life is normal. We joke together. We don't feel that anything separates us. What we have is just normal.
The synagogue has been a target of attacks. For instance, the 2002 bombing, which killed 11 German tourists. Another attack was early this year in January, where a firebomb was thrown to the synagogue.
Let's bring you sports news now here on Newsroom. Stormers captain Siya Kolisi will captain the Springboks in 3 test matches against England. The first takes place at Ellis Park on the 9th of next month. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus confirmed the appointment of Kolisi this morning. Kolisi, who was born in the Zwede township near Port Elizabeth, made his debut against Scotland in June 2013 at the age of 22. He has to date played 28 test matches for his country. Erasmus said Kolisi is a hard-working individual who enjoys the respect of his fellow players. His teammate Peter Steph Tutoy, who missed Saturday's Super Rugby match against the Lions at Newlands due to illness, will captain the Springboks in next weekend's once-off and historic test match against Wales in Washington. Luck will also captain the Springboks for the first time.
The top with the right foot from Duplessis this time. Beautiful take from Dylan Lanes. The Stormers lost back-to-back home games. Lost to the Chiefs here 2 weeks ago.
Tensions are rising in Bloemfontein as Celtic supporters vented their anger at the proposed sale of the club. They're up in arms and have vowed their team will not be sold outside the perimeters of the Free State province. Following a gathering of supporters where it was agreed to write a petition to team owner Max Shabalala, fans disrupted traffic flow, starting fires and throwing rubbish on the roads. This comes alongside unconfirmed weekend reports that the club has in fact been sold to an unknown businessman from the Northern Cape. I spoke to our reporter in the city, Teboho Letsaba, earlier on.
Well, certainly the meeting went well, but after that, as you have correctly explained, things that started to get a bit ugly. That's where some supporters resorted to blockading the roads, trashing the streets, and burning the tires, saying this is a sign of bad things that are yet to happen should the club be sold to anybody outside the perimeters of Bloemfontein.
In football news, Real Madrid players celebrated their third consecutive Champions League with thousands of fans at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Real supporters urged Cristiano Ronaldo to stay at the club during celebrations as he was given a hero's welcome at the Bernabeu with fans chanting his name and singing, "Cristiano, please stay." Madrid's all-time top scorer then gave an optimistic speech on the pitch saying, "I'm very comfortable here. With these players, it's impossible not to win." Ronaldo had overshadowed Madrid's 3-1 win over Liverpool in Saturday's final in Kiev to lift a record-extending 13th European Cup for the club by dropping a hint that he was about to leave in an interview moments after collecting the trophy when he declared it was beautiful to be at Real Madrid. Australian cricket captain Tim Paine said that match-fixing claims aired by news organisation Al Jazeera involving Australian players was unsubstantiated. Cricket's Match Fixers is understood to feature an interview with an alleged match fixer who claims that 2 Australian test players were involved in spot fixing in India last year.
Yeah, I only found out a little bit about it this morning, and obviously I've been playing, but as far as I'm aware at the moment, the claims are unsubstantiated, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, our players have got nothing to worry about.
Staying with cricket news, this time in the IPL, Proteas captain Faf du Plessis and fast bowler Lungi Ngidi are 2018 IPL winners with their team, the Chennai Super Kings. CSK beat the Sunrisers Hyderabad by 8 wickets in the final of the Indian Premier League. The Sunrisers were put into bat after Chennai captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni won the toss and opted to field first. The Sunrisers set a target of 179 in their allotted 20 overs, but a superb century from opener Shane Watson saw his team to victory.
Yes, finally gets one into the stands. Flick, and that's gone for a 6 as well. Take another for Suresh Raina. Oh, that's going to be 4. That's brilliant. That's experience. Watson on 99 will take the single, and that is magnificent. Every 100 is special, but I don't think you'll see anything more special than that. Is this the ball? It is the ball. It's gone for 4. And here come the team. Chennai Super Kings. They are the kings of Vivo IPL 2018.
In motorsport, Australia's Daniel Ricciardo of Red Bull overcame engine power problems to win his maiden Monaco Grand Prix. The podium was completed by Sebastian Vettel of Ferrari and his championship rival Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes. Ricciardo nursed a wounded Red Bull to Monaco Grand Prix victory in the team's 250th race. While there was a lot of action near the back, the top 6 finished in the position that they started. Ricciardo's teammate Max Verstappen was among the most aggressive drivers and ended in the points in 9th spot after having started in last position on the grid. He also managed to set the fastest lap of the race. Winning from pole position for the first time in his career, Ricciardo drove for nearly 2/3 of the race with the car down on power due to problems that emerged on lap 28.
To say no, give it back. He's going to go for it. Of course he is. He's Max Verstappen. Down towards the chicane he goes. This time he's cut the chicane, but comes back over the curve and still stays ahead of Carlos Sainz. Sainz tries to Carlo. It's redemption.
Last year's race winner finished second to cut Lewis Hamilton's overall lead to 14 points after 6 of 21 rounds. Hamilton, the reigning world champion, was third for Mercedes.
Last night is the job half done. He has returned today.
South Africa's Kevin Anderson will begin his French Open campaign, seeded 6th against Italy's Paolo Lorenzi tomorrow morning. The main draw got underway this weekend, with the main surprises coming in the women's draw on day 2, where top seed Jelena Ostapenko and Venus Williams both failed to go through to the next round.
France's Alizé Cornet roused her home crowd in the next clash with a fighting victory over Italy's Sara Errani. The Frenchwoman struggled to find her range and conceded the first set to the Italian, the 2012 runner-up. But Cornet, who made it to the 4th round here last year, recovered to find her rhythm in the second set. Controlling play from the baseline, she claimed a 2-6, 6-2 and 6-3 win to progress to the second round. Luca Pouille joined his fellow countrymen in the second round with a comfortable straight sets win over Russia's Daniil Medvedev. The 15-seeded Frenchman needed just over an hour and a half to dispatch Medvedev, the score 6-2, 6-3 and 6-4. The biggest upset of the opening day at Roland Garros, however, belonged to China's Zhang Wang. Wang downed 7-time Grand Slam champion and 9th seed Venus Williams of the United States in straight sets. The 6-4, 7-5 loss marked the first time Williams, the 2002 runner-up, has lost in an opening match since 2001. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
This opening day of Roland Garros 2018.
And that's how we come to the end of your sport on Newsroom for this Monday. We'll meet again on tomorrow morning's program, Shante.
Definitely, Valen. Always good to be with you in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us this Monday morning. We do it weekdays between 9 and 12 on SABC Newsroom. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees.